Good morning, everybody. Hello, hello. I hope you are all doing well. And just wanted to talk today about Mazatlan a little bit. Um, Recently traveled there last month and was quite surprised. The reason we chose Mazatlan was because, well, quite frankly, because it was cheap as chips. We were able to get flights for an incredibly low price. And so I think the round trip flights were like $400 per person Canadian, including all taxes. So for us in Canada, that's pretty remarkable because our airport taxes are so high. So despite the cartel violence, I mean, let's put the pink elephant in the room out there, or the elephant in the room. I was a little bit concerned initially, um, but I thought, you know what, let's have a go. And the other thing was, as soon as I started really truly considering Mazatlan as a destination, I realized that a very good friend of mine was down there at that moment. Another person that my husband actually goes cycling with every weekend, he had been down there for about a month, I think it was. And there were, quite a few others who had recently been or had it in their future travel plans. So I thought, okay, well, I'm obviously missing something here. I must admit, as I said in some of uh, the show description, I have, I mean, everybody wants us to sell Mazatlan. They want us to sell Cancun. They want us to sell Cabo. Being on the West Coast here, that is a predominantly West Coast vacationers destination. And I'd always been sort of encouraged to sell Mazatlan, but it just didn't speak to me. And so I was quite surprised when I got there to find out how charming it actually was. If you are joining us today, I know there's a few of you who are watching. Thank you for joining in. And I'd love to hear where you are watching from, and if you've been to Mazatlan before. Let's find out who's a recent traveler or a previous traveler, and who is considering having it on their radar. So again, thanks for joining me today. When we landed in Mazatlan Airport, it was really small. If you've ever been to Huatulco, it's about the same size. Like, you land and you climb down the stairs to get into the airport. So if you're mobility challenged, this is something to think about. I don't even think that there were any opportunities for a plane to join up to the airport terminal for you to walk straight off as you would in Vancouver, Toronto, LA, Seattle, any of these larger airports. So it's quite small. They do have a taxi stand. It is regulated. So it's actually at the airport. It's as soon as you exit, and you have to buy a ticket for your destination. And we were staying at the Rio Emerald Bay, which is on the north end of Mazatlan. And this isn't going to be all talk today. I do have quite a few video clips that I'm going to be sharing with you. So it's not going to be just boring old me. But as I say, we were staying at the north end of Mazatlan, and I believe the taxi was about $35 US, which is not much more than it was for a shared transfer. But I mean, we got in the taxi. I said, now another thing is, because it's Mazatlan, it is a predominantly Mexican tourist destination. So people who live in Mexico, this is where they're going to go for vacation. So compared to Cabo, where everybody speaks English, compared to Cancun, everybody speaks English. Mazatlan, not so much. But these days, I mean, with your cell phone, everybody's got Google Translate and stuff like that. You can easily make this work. Anyways, we got in the taxi. I asked if we could stop at the OXXO for some beers. And he's like, yeah, no problem at all. So we stopped in, grabbed a 6-pack of beers, and enjoyed one or two on the way back to the hotel. And that was a really great experience, and super cheap too. Hey, Barbara, how are you doing? Thanks for joining in this morning. Appreciate you joining in. So Mazatlan is actually quite spread out. I actually thought it was quite compressed in the previous videos that I'd seen of the destination and stuff like that. But it's actually really quite spread out between where the Rio is located in Cerritos Beach, or the north end, and then down to the Golden Zone. That's the hotel area. Unfortunately, I don't have a map for you of the area. and then down into the Malecon area, which is one of the longest Malecon or beach boardwalks in Mexico. It's about 8 kilometers long, or about 5 miles. It's a solid hike. I mean, it's going to take you about an hour or more to go from one end to the other, but it's quite a lovely walk. There's a few seaside eateries, food and drinks, that kind of thing, where you can stop along the way. And the thing is, it's quite easy to get around. So there's a couple of options. You can hop on the local bus. That's less than $1 per person. And that goes from one end straight down to the other, goes right to downtown Mazatlan. And that's where you'll find, and I'll talk on this a little bit more, the market, some of the art district, which is really beautiful, some really nice park or areas where they've got rotundas, where they would have bands playing at night and stuff like that, as well as close to where the divers are, and the lighthouse El Faro, which gives you spectacular views of the city. So one of the ways to get around is on the bus. They also have, let's see, I thought I had a video clip of this. They have these golf carts that are like open air vehicles, and they're called pulmonias. And so the story goes, the reason they started calling them that was because the taxis, of course, never want anybody to compete with them. And so what they said is that people would get pneumonia if they traveled in these things because they were open air, whereas the taxis, you could close the windows and stuff like that. So anyways, they're a lot of fun. They're a little bit more expensive than taking the bus, comparable to a taxi. There's also Uber and Didi are private hire companies that you can use there, and they are dirt cheap as well. Okay, so let's get into this. So basically one of the things that I was most impressed about was how clean it was. Here's a clip for you of just one of the streets that we were walking down and looking at some of the different houses, but there's no rubbish anywhere. I mean, look, it wasn't like the streets had just been cleaned. It literally was clean. I could not believe it. And, just no garbage anywhere, which you do see to a certain extent in, Cabo, Cancun. It's probably all us tourists that are doing it. But, compared to, say, Hawaii or, other destinations that I've been to, again, I just could not believe how clean it was. So now, as I said, we talked at the beginning, I said, there was the cartel violence that had just happened. And I was like, is this something I need to worry about? And I was really surprised. I was a little bit reluctant, maybe not reluctant, hesitant, wary, on my guard. And then you just get that sense. Now, there's a whole lot of Canadian and American expats down there, and they're just walking around, older people, maybe mobility challenged, and they don't have a care in the world, and they live down there for a certain number of months a year. And you would sort of, at one place we stopped, this is at Roy's at Cerrito Beach. It was this sort of strip mall where they have a bunch of different restaurants. And let me see, I think I have that in one of my other videos. I'll show that to you in a second. And I was looking at it, and we saw these ribs, and they looked absolutely amazing. And I do have a picture of the ribs. And I was like, I don't know, should we stop here? I don't know. What do you think? And you're sort of sussing it out. Like, does this look dodgy? No, it feels pretty okay. And one of the patrons who had just finished eating walked up to me, and he's like, hey, yeah, you got to try this. Oh, I said, whoa, what did you have? The ribs look really good. She says, oh, I always get the burger. The burger's amazing. It's the best burger you'll ever find in North America. Oh, okay. And he says, yeah. And then he's still talking. My wife, he says, she had the pizza or something. Oh, that was delicious too. And my buddy, the big guy over there. Yeah. Hey, Al over here. Ha ha, And he's like, yeah, well, he had whatever it was, the shrimp or something. And he said, it's all amazing. So he said, this is definitely the place you want to come. So Roy's, and there's two locations. One is in Cerrito Beach, and the other is in the marina. And on Sundays, they do this big plate of ribs. I'm going to show you this now. Sort of out of order, but that's okay. Okay, so these are the ribs. So it's a full rack of ribs. And on Sundays, they're on sale for basically like $8 Canadian, which with the American conversion, if you're watching from the States, it's about $5. It's like crazy cheap. And that was the shrimp that I also had there, which was absolutely delicious. Um, Now I expected Mazatlan has a overall population of about just under 500,000 people, so it's not large. It's quite well spread out. It evolved not as a tourist town, but more for the fishing. So it's one of the best places to get fresh fish, specifically shrimp. I mean, there was shrimp everywhere, and it was some of the best I've ever tasted. I did another video on that, and it was basically places to eat and where not to eat in Mazatlan. So that's definitely worth checking out if you're considering going. Um, but I kind of expected it to be a lot more small town. I mean, that said, we got off the bus and this is a Dairy Queen. So if you got a craving for a soft serve or a brazier burger, a grilled burger, this is a place for you. It was very cold when we were there. We were there at the beginning of February of this year. My friends had been there the week before us, and he was a bit shocked at how cold it was. I don't know what this converts to in Fahrenheit. If you're watching and you can do the conversion, please help us out. But I would wake up in the morning and look at the temperature outside, and it would say 8 degrees some days. And quite frankly, Vancouver, Canada temperature at the same day. This on the same at this like the peak of the day was 8 degrees. So I'm like, okay, but I'm in Mexico here. It's supposed to be a lot warmer. It did heat up during the day to over 20, but in the mornings it was quite chilly. So consequently, we found ourselves, and it was very, very windy, and it was a cold wind coming from the north. And so consequently, we found ourselves looking for sweatshirts, which is not something that you expect to find. And I can tell you from firsthand experience, they're difficult to find in a place that is normally very, very hot. That said, we did find a shopping mall. You can see that's an Apple store right there. They had an H&M, a Sears, and a Liverpool department store, which is they had Levi's, Tommy Hilfiger, a bunch of different brands on offer. Um, yeah, yeah, Barbara, definitely. Cabo was very chilly at that time of year. I think it was unseasonably cold because certainly the other folks that had been there before me and the people who were there the week after me, it didn't seem to be as cold for them. So, just one of those freaky nature things. So yeah, so talking about the food a little bit more. Let me see what else I've got in here for video clips. Showed you the Dairy Queen, showed you that. So one of the things that's really cool is the Malecon, and you can see it starts out at the beginning. There's the Mazatlan sign, which was always extremely popular, and you can see all the way down to the end. Okay, I thought I'd muted all of these. I guess I didn't mute that one. So that one was just showing you the statues that are along the Malecon, and they're lit up at night, which I didn't realize. During the day, we walked in the morning because we thought if it gets quite hot, we don't want to be caught in the stifling heat. And so it was interesting to see it sort of towards sunset. And the sunsets in Mazatlan were absolutely stunning. It's on the very west coast. It's pretty much parallel with Cabo. And so it's, the same latitude. But when we were there, actually, my sister-in-law happened to be in Cabo that same week, and her weather was way better. So, it's one of those things. It depends. But where we're located in Mazatlan, we're facing due west, and the sun sets over the water, so it's absolutely stunning. RAS, good to see you. Thanks for tuning in this morning. Love Puerto Vallarta. Yeah, Puerto Vallarta. See, this is what I didn't know about. And I actually watched one of my favorite YouTube couples, Lloyd and was it Lloyd and Mandy? No, it was gosh, their name escapes me right now. Of course, because I'm trying to tell you about it. The Country Collectors. The Country Collectors. They did a video on Mazatlan, and I was like, sold, have to go there. Seeing the Malecon, all the restaurants, people cycling everywhere. Is it better or worse than Puerto Vallarta? Different. It's just slightly different. I would argue more stuff to see and do, and I do have a video for you on that. But yeah, so much to see and do that it wasn't just a beach vacation, if you know what I mean. I mean, it could be, it could be. I mean, the Rio that we stayed at, the Rio Emerald Bay, kind of more like a 3-star. They had one restaurant out of 5 restaurants, one restaurant where you could order 6 or 7 items that were a la carte. Everything else was buffet style dining. To me, that's 3-star. But the drinks were fine, and they had lovely pools and like several pool areas. Hey, Micah Vindy, good afternoon to you. I guess you're on the other coast. Over here, it's still early morning, early-ish, anyways. Thanks for joining. Appreciate that. Yeah, so the sunsets were absolutely amazing. Let me show you this. 20 seconds. This is various stages of the sunset one particular day. This was one of the beach vendors. He's actually sitting there taking a photo, actually a selfie of the sunset. It was amazing how much the color changed to go from this pinky to orange, and then it ended up this beautiful purple color. It was absolutely amazing. And that was pretty much every night. So that was really interesting to see. Who else have we got here? John, watching from Yorkshire, England. Oh, lovely. Well, welcome. Thanks for joining in. Somebody else was commenting. There weren't too many English people there, but I believe there might be, maybe on TUI, you might have charter flights into Mazatlan. If not, it would probably be to Cabo or Puerto Vallarta. Interestingly enough, there is a slow ferry boat that, again, Country Collectors did this ride, and I don't know. I mean, kudos to them, because I certainly wouldn't have done it. It was fairly cheap. I think it was about $50 per person, and you can ride from Mazatlan across the water, across the, I guess it would be the Sea of Cortez, to the Baja California, and you stop, it ports in La Paz. And then from there, you can make your way either to Cabo or, other destinations. And they did this, and it was I think it was a 10-hour journey, an overnight ferry boat. Gets quite rough in the middle, and because it was windy, there was no chance that I was getting on a boat, because I do tend to get seasick quite a lot. But if you're in for an adventure, as you say, definitely this is an option. And again, back to RAS, like I said, lots of stuff to see and do. We'll move on to that in just a second. Mike of Indy, 20 days till your Barcelona honeymoon. Well, congratulations on that. I don't know if you are already married or if you're getting married just before that, but congratulations either way, and I hope you have a great time at the Barcelo. It's funny, Barcelo. Barcelo, do you say Barcelo or Barcelo? I've been told by my sales rep that you say it Barcelo, as in Barcelona, but certainly for all of my life, I assumed it was Barcelo. Just different pronunciation. Sean from Edmonton, heading to the Rio Emerald Bay in a couple of weeks. Awesome. Did they have room service at night? Good question. I don't believe that they did, but honestly, I'm just not that room service kind of person. I do know that there is the sports bar, which is open 24/7, and they do have food available in there. They have okay pizza, as well as burgers that you can reheat. There's microwaves in there, as well as sandwiches. The sandwiches are actually really good. So I don't know about room service, but I think the food was, restaurants were open until like 11. So even if you're arriving late, still lots of opportunities to get food. So let's talk about, so the downtown area was what really surprised me the most. So here's just a picture. This is one of the old churches, and then one of the, I don't know, what do you call these areas? One of the park areas, I guess. And then I'm going to show you this. So this is the fishing area. So this is where all the fishermen would come in. They had fresh oysters available for you to try. This is the market. This was really amazing to see. You walk in, and it was like Granville Island here in Vancouver, where they've got fresh meat for sale. All the locals that shop here, expats shop here. This was fresh fish. It was on a big slab of ice to keep it cool and cut the way you like. Gloria Gaynor, I Will Survive. She was playing just after we left. And that was one of the historic hotels. You can walk in, have a look. I mean, everything was open, and there's so much history here. As I say, it wasn't created as a tourist town, but it's somewhat evolved to that. And I think because it's got so much character to it, which was really interesting. That's one of the taxis you can get. And this Liverpool Street, so you can sit here and get a picture with these statues of the Beatles. This is the area where the cliff divers were. I think we went downtown. I dragged my husband past this area probably 5 times whilst we were there. You can see there's some vendors that are set up to offer different kinds of food that were available. We saw the divers finally on the last day. As I got my camera ready and was just getting ready to film him, he had jumped in, and it was one of the tour buses from the cruise ship had come by, and I guess that was the gig. Now, we weren't there at night. We don't tend to go out at night a lot when we're out on vacation, unless we're, Cabo, if we're staying at Breathless or the Sandos. It's very easy to walk and get around in the marina area. Cancun, if we're staying, in Cancun as opposed to Mayan Riviera, then we might walk around a little bit. So we didn't see what it was like at night, and I think that might have been when more of the diver action was happening. And they'll dive with flares and all kinds of stuff, so it's really quite exceptional to see. I've seen it in other YouTube videos. And we did see them, as I say, dive when one of the cruise ship groups was there, but I just didn't have a chance to get it on film, which was really quite annoying. But it is what it is. But I would just recommend go to cruisemapper.com and look at Mazatlan cruise ship terminal, and you can look it up by schedule date and see which ships are going to be in. Actually heading to Nassau next month, and have already mapped out which ships will be in whilst we're there. There's one day out of 2 and a bit weeks that we're there that has no ships in. The second day that we arrive, there's 5, 6 ships, maybe 5. And I think it's a possible maximum occupancy. If every ship is full, it's over 23,000 people that will be coming into port for the day. So as you would expect, whether it's Mazatlan or Hawaii or Cancun, whenever there's cruise ships in, there's going to be a lot more activities happening because they're all trying to grab your tourist dollars. Okay, Justin, owns a home in Mazatlan. Well, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate that. If you have any other tips for us, let us know. Not to do the all-inclusive, way too many places to eat and drink. Yes, definitely. And we found that as well. When we first got there, we had booked into the Rio for a week, and we didn't know what our plans were for the following week, but I thought, well, let's just wing it. I made 3 different reservations for 3 different hotels. They were hotels with suites. So they would have a fridge, a cooking element, a microwave, pretty basic stuff. But we thought, well, we'll just eat out most of the time, which seemed like a great idea. And then the plan was that when we got there, we would hop on the bus and go down to the Golden Zone and have a look at these places. It's all fine and good to book them here. I reluctantly look at TripAdvisor reviews on occasion. I could talk for an hour and a half about how rubbish most of those reviews are. A lot of them are done by competing hotel employees, all kinds of scams going on with that. So they're not really trustworthy in any way, shape, or form. But I also have a couple of other trusted sites that I use to find out a little bit more about the hotels and if they're worth staying at or not. And I was hearing some reports of the bandas, the musicians in Mazatlan. They typically have a tuba, drums, some other horns, and it can be loud music. And people in Mazatlan, they like to party, and we were there right before Carnival, which is one of the biggest festivals of the year. I read some people say that Carnival in Mazatlan is bigger than in any other part of the world, including Brazil. Given the population, how do you define that? I guess would be the first question. But certainly they were gearing up for it with bleachers being set up to watch this massive parade that was going to be coming down the main road. So it's hard to say if it was going to be a big deal or not. But all I can say is people in Mazatlan do like to party, and it's all along that Malecon and along the Golden Zone. So I was a little bit worried about noise. Also, financially, it just came down to, I think it was going to be $2,000 Canadian to stay an extra week at the Rue, or between 800 and 1,200 to stay at a regular hotel that didn't have food and drinks included. And so it's like, well, for the difference between two people, are we going to spend the equivalent of, say, $800 on food and drinks for the week? Hard to say. But that first day that we did go out and suss out all the different hotels, we ended up at El Sinaloense, and we actually went there, I think, 4 times in the 2 weeks that we were there. The food was amazing. Again, I have this in a separate video that you can see all of food and drinks, places to eat in Mazatlan. Justin, if you have other recommendations, my top ones were El Sinaloense and Roy's. Roy's we ate at 2 or 3 times as well. Fisherman's was really good. A friend of mine just got back. I forget the name of the place, but it was downtown. He was staying more like near the Best Western, which is again a classic hotel, a great place to watch the sunset from the top deck, where they've got a pool and bar and stuff like that. But yeah, there's definitely some amazing places to eat and drink, and that's one thing that I keep hearing from people who are visiting, is just seeing all the different food that they're enjoying, and it all looks absolutely stunning, absolutely amazing. Um, so yeah, it was just really surprising in Mazatlan. It took me for a loop. I was not expecting that at all. Just that sense of comfort, the really good food, as well as just the amount of different stuff that you could do. As I say, if you don't want to just park yourself on a beach and you want more of a cultural vacation, I mean, we could have gone to the theater. We could have ventured out more at night, and certainly it seems like everybody else I know did a lot more of that. There's an observatory that you can go to with a funicular, and basically, if you've ever seen the show Bosch, they have one of these in LA, I guess. And what it is it's a tram that works on opposite ways. So it's the same cable, and it either moves up or it's down. So if you're in this car, you're coming down while this one is going up. And that's basically how that works. So we wanted to go on it, but somehow you just run out of time. I don't know. We were going to hike to the top of El Faro, the lighthouse, but we just didn't. I mean, we were putting in on average about 18,000 steps a day, some days more. So the idea, having done 2 or 3 days in a row of that, of then hiking up a hill to see a lighthouse, is not exactly motivational. Barbara says it's snowing here. Oh no, but she's going to the Hyatt Zilara Riviera Mile on the 15th. Wow. So where are you, Barbara? I cannot remember. I'm pretty sure you're in Canada, probably, if it's snowing. Because we have here in Vancouver, WestJet is mostly via Calgary, which sucks. I mean, you don't want to fly north and east to fly south, but it is what it is. Swoop is who we flew, and I did a review video on them. We flew them direct from Abbotsford, which, and they were fine. They were a low-cost airline, kind of like Allegiant or Spirit, as you would have in the US. And they were okay. They nickel and dime you on the extra charges. but at the time it was, quite a bit more to go on WestJet than it was to go on Swoop. Chicago, okay, and you just had that big storm going through. So yeah, that sucks if it's cool-ish weather. We're hoping to hit 13, I think it is, tomorrow or the next day, which will be sunny but not overly warm. Um, no, they were fine. RIS. Good question. Um, there was, they had the beach vendors right outside of the hotels, and they have the rope, just like they do in Puerto Vallarta. You'll have seen, even at the restaurants where it's kind of everybody is barricaded off that they don't encroach on the property. Now in Mazatlan, if you were having a bite to eat and a drink at Fisherman's, for example, they would come right up to it, but it was like you just kind of, and on they go. There was no pressure whatsoever. I shouldn't say no pressure. They were just not aggressive. At the hotel, sitting out there one morning and enjoying the sun, and there's one guy who they would set up every single day. So it was, in a way, it was good. If you wanted to go shopping, you could go into this mall area and you could get anything you wanted, from beach balls to blow up foam, floaty mattresses, to t-shirts, hats, sunglasses, you name it, they had it. And even then, you feel like, oh, you're entering the lion's den. It was fine. The one guy who was selling these NFL blankets, which I was actually tempted to buy one for my friend. Um, it was a beautiful Raiders blanket. And he's like, "Yes, welcome. Yes, I have your blanket here. Come and see." And he said this to everybody who like walked near the beach. And I guess it worked for him. I don't know. But more friendly and helpful than aggressive in any way. Uh, in as much as we were, as I said earlier, it was so cold that we were actually looking for sweatshirts. So maybe check the weather if you're going in February. But we walked into a couple of shops and we said, like, we want a hoodie, not a zip. And the guy's like, "Oh, check out, go down this way, two doors down." He's got some, or they would call out to their friends, "Hey, do you have?" So they were more helpful than anything. So no, not aggressive. That was in the hotel, in the hotel zone, and in the north at the Rio. Basically, there's not really any other hotels there. There's the Pueblo Bonita, Emerald Bay around the corner, but that's even more secluded area. But downtown, no, very comfortable. There's always people trying to sell you stuff, but not in a um, aggressive way. Justin, yeah, for sure, for sure, and a lot of people were pretty good at negotiating the prices. We heard, back at the hotel, people regaling their tales of how they got the person down to this price or that price. And but if you don't want to deal with all of that, you can just go to the mall and buy your stuff. We went into one of the grocery stores to see what they had. Also, because we'd just taken carry-on, so we needed to get some more suntan lotion, and I forget what else we needed. Oh, some ibuprofen because of all the walking. Our feet were sore. And so we went into the Soriana, and the suntan lotion was actually oddly expensive there. Not compared to the hotel resorts, which are always about $30 American for a bottle of sunscreen. But at the Soriana, it was 17, $18 American. And if you get it at home, you can pop into Walmart, or if you're in the States, Target, and you just get it for about $10. So it's annoying to spend double the price, but it is what it is. And perhaps if we'd gone to one that was less close to the tourist area, it would have been less expensive. But yeah, if you want to do the haggling, as Justin mentioned, if you want to barter for the prices, they're definitely willing to do that. You just have to decide what you're going to pay. And if you're going to pay in pesos, oh, and let's talk about that, pesos or dollars. That's always a fun conversation. Um, if you're going to pay and you're going to pay in pesos, make sure you know what your conversion is ahead of time, and so that you know what your limit is on what you're going to pay. And also, just I want to say there are a lot of ATMs. We don't tend to travel with a lot of cash, but we do rely on being able to use an ATM to withdraw money. As we need. And some of the people at the hotel were talking about how they'd gone to 3 or 4 different ATMs to try to withdraw money. Um, the first time we went to a, we always go to a Mexican bank or a Canadian bank, Scotiabank of Canada, Royal Bank of Canada, CIBC. These are all banks that I have found in everywhere from St. Lucia, Aruba, St. Martin, the Bahamas. They're everywhere. And you're going to get a decent rate on the local currency when you go to these places. I think we went into a Santander and Bancomex and somewhere else. And we used one that wasn't a common one that we would choose, and you sort of doing that conversion thing, like it's the machine is sort of saying in English, but then is it talking about pesos or dollars? And we ended up spending 20 bucks to get out about 2,000 pesos, I think it was, which was stupid. And I should know better, and I should have just declined the transaction at that point. But you live, you learn, right? So yeah, Barbara says she usually uses pesos. Yeah. So here's the thing. If you're going to Mexico, what I have been told by people who live in Mexico, and Justin, jump in here on this one, please, is that people want to be paid in pesos. And I mean, duh, like unless you're living on the Mexico-US border, as I live here in Canada on the Canada-US border, people do pay for things in US dollars here because, I mean, from where I live, I'm literally 8 minutes to the border. But that said, if you're going to Mexico, oh yeah, that's a good point. You want to pay in local currency because if it's a foreign currency, then they've got to deal with exchanging it. And I'll talk on that for a second. Justin's saying use a credit card almost everywhere, way better rate. That's true because you will get the best exchange rate. There is a international conversion, a currency conversion rate that will be factored in. It's usually about 3.5%. But even so, you're getting the best current day's exchange rate without the extra fees. So I agree that's definitely the way to go. RIS, use only pesos. Yeah, so this is a really good point. Thank you, RIS, for adding this. So in Mexico, the vast majority of people who live in Mexico do not have a bank account. If you don't have a bank account, you can't exchange money. You say, well, you could go to a cambio, you could go to an exchange place and change your money there. But for that, you need a passport. Most Mexicans do not have a passport. And arguably 40% of Canadians don't have a passport. I don't know what the percentage is in the US, but I definitely know it's a huge number. So that becomes a challenge to get the exchange. Can they use it at local shops? Yes. Are they going to get the best exchange rate? Probably not. I mean, why would the business give you a better exchange rate than what they can take for it? And as far as the damaged bills go, if they are ripped, torn, have any writing on them, they are not considered valid currency and will not be accepted. And now, if you're going to a beach vendor and you really want to buy a hat because it's too sunny and, gosh darn it, sorry, RIS, I still have the hat, not get rid of it. But if you have to buy a hat, they're going to take your money because it's better to take that than to not take it. And they can always pawn it off or give it back to another American as change later on. Because look, if you're paying somebody in American, do you really want to get pesos back? Probably not. If you've decided to go that route where you're just not going to convert your money, then you're not going to want to have to deal with getting change in a foreign currency. So it's going to be easy for them to move it on, but it creates a bit of a hassle. Um, okay, so what's he saying? Just a bank account, which makes things easier. Yeah, $100 bills, those are tricky too. And because look, I mean, how many of them are going to be counterfeit or, that kind of thing? And if they're a certain age, yeah. And that's honestly, that's true of any country. There's been times we've been to, the Bahamas, Aruba, St. Martin. Those tend to be our three top picks for the Caribbean. And in Aruba, they deal with they call them I think there they use easy dollars or um, the um, Caribbean dollars. But if they're a certain age, it's just every country does it. Every country changes their currency every so often, and again, it's to thwart the counterfeiters. But if they're old money, you can give it to them, but they're not going to be considered legal tender. So that presents a challenge for them. So yeah, definitely always pesos is the way to go. So do you guys have any other questions about Mazatlan? I hope you found this useful. If you are enjoying this, if you found it interesting, then please consider giving this video a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos. I'd love to hear your feedback on this. Um, I'm thinking of doing one of these chatty things about once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks, just to interact, do 30 to 45 minutes and chit chat about destinations, what news is in the industry, what's going on, things like that. If you think that's a good idea, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Sorry, you have to go back to work, RS, but thank you for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. Again, Justin, thank you for all your input. Being somebody who lives in Mazatlan, really appreciate the comments that you have. Barbara used dollars in Aruba. Yeah, well, but like I said, at the end of the day, if somebody's selling something and they can get some currency, they are happy. But if they would prefer to have it in local currency. So, good Canadian girl. Hey, thanks for joining in. Is there a cool market to go shopping? Yeah, and again, I'll show you this. So this was the mall. So if you want indoor covered, as I said, they had an Apple store, H&M, which I was kind of surprised to see. There was I think an Adidas shop, a Nike shop, Sears. I thought that had gone into business years ago. And then, of course, there was the downtown market area. I'll go through this as all one video. This is the fishing area. And then this is the market. Now, this market, I'll show you in the next couple of clips. It had fresh meat that you could buy, as well as a chicken section, as well as a fish section. But it also had some stalls that had candy. There were some stalls that had clothing, other stalls that had souvenirs. So there's really a bunch of everything. And then downtown is also where you're going to find a lot of the inexpensive local stores. So if you do need clothing or whatever, that's a good place to get stuff. And also, where's it going with that? But there's shops all along, and especially in the Golden Zone, which is, so if you have the downtown here, and then you have the Malecon, and then you have the Golden Zone, and then up further you have the Rio. And the Golden Zone is where most of the hotels are. There's some downtown as well, and there's shops everywhere you go. In fact, like with the Rio, where we were quite a ways from everything. On the bus, it took about half an hour each way to get downtown. But by taxi or pulmonia is what we used most of the times to get home, just for the sake of ease of it and whatever. And it was about 15 pesos, sorry, $15 to get back to the hotel. Like, whoop-de-doo. That was from Los Clavadistas, the diving area, or El Sinaloense, which is where we ended up most of the time. Thanks, Justin. Yeah, it's yeah. I don't know if you mean thank you for the video or if you think it's fun to travel. I think it's fun to travel. I think we all do. Um yeah, yeah. It is going to depend a little bit too on the exchange rate. You know, it's all bargaining power. Um is there a nightclub that I recommend? No. No. Sorry, that's just no. I There probably are some great, nightclubs, but I just it's not my, cup of tea, really. I'm quite happy to head back to the resort in the evening, have a glass of wine, and then, head to bed after dinner. So, um, no, I would look, I like to get up and watch the sunrise. So if I'm up at 6 in the morning, 7 at the latest, seeing me on the back end of midnight, not likely. So, I'm a morning girl, when it comes to my my vacation day schedule. So, no, Justin, if you know a good nightclub show, to see in Mazatlan, that'd be great. Safe tours to see in the more rural side of Mazatlan. Well, yeah, okay, so there's a couple of different things. There's Stone Island you can go to. You can go to some of the other islands. There's quite a few nearby. And these would be either water taxis or water tours that you can take. Um, I don't recall seeing a lot of other stuff, purely because it wasn't there was so much that I wanted to see culturally, visually in Mazatlan that I wasn't looking to explore outside of it. Um, there are definitely the ATV stuff. You can do that anywhere, and see more of the hillside or the rural, as you say, areas of things. But it wasn't something that I explored. There's also fishing tours you can do, and obviously being in that pocket between Baja California and the mainland, fishing's pretty amazing. And just to see how much the fishing industry is so popular there. But yeah, I know. Yeah, yeah. I really I get annoyed actually if I sleep in on vacation because I think I can sleep at home. Whereas if I'm if I'm wasting the daylight on vacation, I'm to me it's all eye candy. You know, I want to see that beautiful blue water in Cancun. I want to see the picturesque beaches in Mazatlan. I want to see the landscape from the top of the Sandos Finisterre in Cabo, seeing the marina and the cruise ships coming in and the whales off the coast. I want to see all of that. So that doesn't happen at night. I'm a daytime person. Um, yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's definitely lots of clubs. I know there are tons. There's one by the Royal Villas Hotel. But honestly, by all of them, by the Emporio. So look up those two, the Royal Villas. Just go on Google Maps is what I do, and look in the area. But I would say those two are really popular. Yeah, and the nightclubs don't really start until 11 p.m. By 11 p.m., like I'm looking for my bed. And that really, I don't have any good footage of what the Malecon was like or the cliff divers in the evening because um, I just didn't see that. Oh, you're going next week. Oh, well, thanks for watching the videos. And yeah, we'll do comment on those to let me know, like, if you find any good nightclubs. Now, where you are, you're sort of going to be on the farther end of things. Friday nights at Roy's. So when you come into the hotel, on the street side, on the back side of the resort, you're going to actually head further north. So you're going to turn left, and that's where, excuse me, that's where Roy's is, as well as excuse me. That's where Roy's is. So that's where those ribs are on Sundays. Thursdays, they do steak or a filet, or I forget what it also was, um, as well for about $12. And on Friday nights, they have country music and a live band. So if that's your deal. You might enjoy that. And then there's Oxo about 5-10 minute walk either way. Either you come out of the hotel on the street side, you go left, or you go right. There's a cycling path you can walk on. Again, it a little apprehensive when I first got there, and I honestly felt silly by day 3 that I had been so worried and frankly let the media get to me, because we all know they're just blowing everything out of proportion. I mean, there's shootings every day in Vancouver. That doesn't make headline news, doesn't make international news. Um, so it is what it is. If it's a dodgy area, yeah, you have to take care. But it was honestly, I would say it was one of the safest, cleanest places I'd ever been to in Mexico. And as I said, by comparison, when I went to Hawaii, everybody's like, "Wow, Hawaii is amazing! It's the best! It's the best." Hawaii was dirty, garbage everywhere. The marina was full of plastic and disposal, like just garbage. And the marinas that I've seen in Cabo, Mazatlan, they're pristine. So by in every experience is different, but I was just surprised because I don't know, there's kind of this persona that in Mexico it's not going to be as clean or something. And like I said, I mean, again, looking at these streets, there is no garbage anywhere. Like even in Vancouver, you would see more rubbish on the streets than what you see here. So yeah, definitely worth checking out. Is it cold at night? Yes, definitely bring. We are going next week. Nah, it could still be chilly. If it's windy at all, that can be cold. So definitely bring a jacket. Bring a pashmina, a wrap, for the evenings. The Rio is quite open air in most areas, which is great when it's hot. Not so great when it's cold and windy. So yeah, bring a couple of warm items for sure. Yeah, I agreed, Barbara. Most of the violence is at the border areas, and it is what it is, right? So you wouldn't go to those areas. Those are not the areas that are main tourist areas. Some of them could be, but until the drug stuff settles down, no. And that arguably is on either side of the border, Canada or sorry, not Canada. Well, yeah, there's drug issues in Canada as well, but whether in the U.S. or the American side, U.S. or the Mexican side. Yes, yeah, I'm in Greater Vancouver as well. So when we went down to Mazatlan, we flew out of Abbotsford and we went on Swoop. So I don't know if you saw the video review I did on that. But yeah, we flew out of Abbotsford and got there way too early. There's absolutely nothing at the airport. But it's a quick, short flight. Can't go wrong. So, well, thanks for joining this week, guys. Appreciate you tuning in and spending part of your Saturday with me. And as I said, if you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos. And I do have another video coming out tomorrow, which is a Hyatt comparison. So stay tuned for that. And we'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.